Welcome to the See Me Be Me podcast. I'm Nile Henry.
And I'm Blair Henry.
And we're two brothers who set out on a mission to make motorsport and STEM careers more diverse, affordable, and inclusive. We are the founders of the Blair Project.
This podcast series delves into the minds of inspirational individuals who come from ordinary and often humble backgrounds, but through their belief, dogged determination, and never give up attitude, have managed to overcome academic, social, or mental challenges to achieve their dream careers.
Our guests will share their life lessons that you too can apply to your own. We hope their stories will inspire you to go further, aim higher, and accept nothing less than you deserve. Your ambition, your purpose is all within, and we're here to help you unlock it. The planet of possibilities are endless.
You know who made it.
Hello and welcome to the See Me Be Me podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Dennis Logan, who is the founder and CEO of Endelea Studios. Welcome to the podcast, Dennis.
Thank you, Now. Thank you, Blair. Like I said, a huge fan from you guys well before the podcast, and truly appreciate the message you guys are setting out to the world here. Like I said, huge fan for years now. So honestly, a little bit starstruck.
Thank you, man. And Dennis is joining us from the USA. Whereabouts in the USA, Dennis?
So based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So good old motor racing home, at least for the US hometown there. And born and raised Pittsburgh though, so bit of a Midwesterner, Southwest, Yinzer, bit of everything.
And so tell us, Dennis, what is Endelea Studios and how did you start it?
Sure. So Endelea Studio on the surface is a website design and development company. So really trying to focus in on those founders that are between whether operationalizing an idea to you have a small side hustle going and it could grow a lot faster with a proper digital presence. It really came about because of, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but I spent about 12 years in insurance and then 2 years consulting for private equity firms. And frankly, between all those jobs, I was looking at, call it 20 to 50 websites per day of looking for leads to call, looking for relationships to build, et cetera. And frankly, a lot of them, even this is, pre-pandemic, were 5, 10, 20 years old and just didn't really give you much information. And then in starting my own insurance agency, I saw firsthand how, let's call it the quality of what you invest in can vary so much with website design, marketing teams, et cetera, where you can spend your entire savings before you even get a single lead. And no one really tells you how to do that. They're all willing to take that dollar first. So our goal is really to be an agnostic advisor throughout that entire process. So really being a true advisor to the founder saying, hey, look, you have an idea, you have a side hustle. This is a great next step for you. This is where you should go. So website happens to be that first step that a lot of people just don't really have set up. So we look at it as kind of like we're managing your store, right? So if you were back in the day, you build a brick and mortar, you would have a store manager that just at least cleans up things, puts out the holiday decorations, make sure the customers are getting through to where they need to get through. And that's what a lot of people don't have right now. They're trying to, post a website. It says a simple bio, and then all of a sudden they're wondering why there's not more traction. There's not more actual acquisition by the client. They're just kind of clicking on it, what have you. And so that's what we're there to provide to provide that throughput of the transaction, pretty much.
And how long has the business been going?
So Endelea has launched July of this year. So pretty new. So about 3 months in. We're about 15 clients strong. 15 team members strong. About 25 clients in total so far. Our biggest focus right now, like I said, is really helping founders like yourself. Like I said, from consulting with private equity firms for the last 2 years, there's frankly a lot more capital than they know what to do with. That's just being frank. Like to the point that they're hiring their principals and the people that manage their portfolios and saying, hey, come up with an idea for us to invest in. And they're not really coming up with those ideas. And us founders are, right? So in that regard, there's a lot of connections to be made, but as kind of per usual or per history, they don't look at our communities until last, right? So there's lack of funding once they get to us. There's that extra hurdle put there where, we watch the DEI, wave kind of come in. Now I'm frankly seeing it go on its way back out, where all these layoffs happen to be a bit more brown and black focused. And so now it's a matter of, what does the next step look like for a black founder, right? What should you go in and get that W-2 job for at least the next year to ride out the storm, or should you double down and really go on your own, right? So those are questions we hope to help answer for people, that we find that there's not really an agnostic answer to that, right? There's usually a private equity saying, hey, give us 30% and we'll tell you an answer. Or we'll say, or it's the bank saying, hey, if you have at least this much in revenue, then we'll give you a bigger check. But how do you get from A to B? Which one's the better option? Do you go crowdfund? Those are all things that every business has to decide for themselves, right? So, sorry, a little bit of a long-winded answer. I hope that answered, though.
And in terms of your experience, because reading, learning more about you, you've worked on both sides. You've worked with VC firms, or you've worked within a VC firm, and now you've got your own company where you're working with ambitious founders and partnering up with VC firms. So, in terms of your experience, then, what is the appetite for VC firms to invest in, diverse businesses, whereas Black businesses, Asian businesses, female founded businesses? Do you see that changing? Are they more pro investing in those businesses, or is it still the same?
I would say it's definitely progressing in the right direction of they're investing in more. I would say there's companies like 776 Management, for instance. That was started by Serena Williams and her husband, who launched Reddit. So you have major funds that are now, part of the infrastructure that are truly looking out for Black and brown businesses, minority-owned businesses, female-owned businesses. And so you have that landscape changing to make and this is me speaking candidly here, the private equity VC market is a very, they have a mind share. So no one's really trying to do something super cutting edge unless you're a true disruptor, and then you might get squashed out by the big bucks, so to speak. So a lot of it is kind of like, okay, well, this company did well. Okay, we'll copy that then. So 776 is kind of one of those companies that's kind of saying, hey, look, this is our focus. And there's been other companies, not to overlook them, right? But that's just kind of a big name that, you can imagine the amount of money that's going to always come through those doors with those kind of names behind it, so to speak. In regards to, I would say, the true creativity of the investments, though, I would say is still kind of lacking. So I still see a lot of, and this is, again, my personal opinion, and looking at due diligence deals for the last 2 years, probably like close to 100 over 100 of them, actually. It's still a lot of generic kind of businesses, so to speak, where it's like an HVAC contractor, a law firm, those areas that have been proven already. So therefore, they're not really taking a quote unquote risk by investing in a Black or brown company, if that makes sense. Versus what you guys have and what I would love to support, like I said, where we're saying, hey, look, this is a brand new idea. This doesn't exist somewhere else. You can't say that we've tried this before, that we didn't try this before. This is a brand new idea that we're bringing to the light. So that's where we try to step in and say, hey, look, this is the path you might want to follow. If you were just a standard law firm, then it's this path, but you can't follow that same path and expect the same results, right?
Yeah. And I wanted to ask her, Dennis, in terms of you getting started on your, let's say, your entrepreneurial journey, did you have almost like a mentor or a role model to help get you started on that journey and pave the way for you?
I would say yes and no. So I would say my sisters. My sisters are 11 and 13 years older than me, so they're absolutely my role models. I just don't know if that's not direct to your question of like the person, outside the family, so to speak. But so my oldest sister worked for Deloitte for about 15, 17 years, something like that, as a management consultant. And so she got to see just constant deals, constant flow of the Fortune 500 companies to acquisition of other companies. And so I got to see firsthand what her day-to-day looked like. So that was a great experience to say, like, oh, look, she's, working from the couch as she does her reports, even though the report may be tedious and taxing, but I like the fact that she got to work from the couch, right? So in contrast to my other sister, who's a pediatrician and wanted to be a pediatrician since she was a kid, I just knew that I as many of us took Bio 205 or the weed out class. I'm not sure what you guys have over there, was it chemistry or physics or whatever. I was weeded out. That was not my strong suit by any means. STEM, I guess, would will probably be a considered weak point in my GPA, although it's also always been my biggest interest. So to me, it was a matter of like the content not matching the, what I want to study, so to speak. But as far as mentors, like I said, it was really those two, along with my two older cousins. So I have a oldest cousin that played, or actually both of them played professional football. And so they taught me tenacity. They taught me how to, work hard, take your hits, learn how to not take your hits, and keep pushing. So that's really what pushed me into sales and kind of being an entrepreneur, because it was like, every time I got kind of pushed back in the corporate world, I was like, okay, what's the next step? I'm not just going to give up. I'm not just going to be reduced to this spot. How do I, do a little juke move and get around this guy next time? And that's kind of where the entrepreneurial spirit came from, frankly.
And then what would you say is the best piece of advice that your sisters gave you?
My oldest sister, that corporate loyalty is not a true thing anymore. Relationships are truly about the relationship you have with that person. So there's not that, my dad's about to retire on his pension, and I think he's probably going to be the last person in our family that's going to have a true certified pension, right? Like there's not that loyalty to go back to the person that put in, at this point, 40 years into the city work experience. My middle sister, I would say without exact words, is just really just giving love. She's a true healer by nature, and I've seen that come back around to her. That it's just doing those good deeds to come back all the way around. So just being that putting out good energy, even if it's not received immediately, is worth putting it out, if that makes sense.
Now, Dennis, in terms of your career starting up, actually, I'm going to take it way back. Take me back to when you were 8 years old. What did young Dennis want to be?
Oh, 8 years old. 8 years old, I still had my car bed. Yeah, I still had a blue NASCAR car bed. Wanted to be a somewhat racer / probably astronaut. I was like space and just going fast, so those two kind of lined up together. Yeah, I mean, growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, there's kind of a motocross scene a bit. It's a bit woodsy, but it's not really. It's definitely not a formal like go-kart. I would say in the last probably 5 years, it's become a little more formalized, but there's really just not a racing scene, so to speak. So after that, it was okay. Well, what can I do the fastest? So I became a racer. I was doing 50-meter sprints all the time. Field day, everything like that. That was my focus. So from there, I mean, it was honestly, I wanted to be. I told people that I wanted to be a lawyer, like many people, I think, right? So you find that good answer to tell people. I wanted to be able to help people was my biggest goal there, and yeah, the rest of it kind of came together as life goes on, right?
So you grew up wanting to be a racing driver and astronaut, and then later on it was to being a lawyer.
Yep.
So then you went on to transition into working for insurance companies. So did you do a degree in law as well?
No. So so let's see. Graduated high school, went to Bucknell University on a track scholarship. Ran the 400, 800, and so I was dedicated to running and knew that it would help me get through life, so to speak. Majored in psychology because both my older sisters had majored in psychology, so I knew it was a good kind of basis for either way that I wanted to go. As I mentioned, Bio 205 weeded me out freshman year of taking that med school route because I was just like, this is not for me. Cutting up bodies, the whole nine. I'm just not really into that. So that's where I started focusing in on law. When I graduated, though, in 2014, it was kind of at the time, I'm not sure how the market truly is now, but I got to intern with the DA's office. And so I saw firsthand just the amount of burnout people were going through to still have, another $200K of student loans and still only get paid, $50,000 to $60,000 per year, even though they're working 90-hour shifts, 90-hour weeks and the whole nine, right? So it was just, I wasn't scared of that because I'm always willing to work and put in the work to get to where I need to get to go. But I also saw that like maybe there's a faster route to where I need to get to go. So my thing was I wanted to pick up some skills. So I worked at Lexus, selling cars, actually first job out of college, and it taught me a lot. And it taught me how to hustle, how to bring about my own leads, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But then it really also showed me that kind of, and where Endelea comes from is not everyone has that agnostic advice. So for me selling cars, I probably see my family in total over $100,000 over the last like 5 years of buying cars, because I know who to talk to, I know how to get straight to the good deal, those kind of things. But if you don't know that, then you're overpaying for it, right? So all that said, that kind of led me to leaving Lexus and wanting to go into insurance. And so insurance to me at least made sense, because for every $1,000 you get from a client, they're usually getting $1 million of coverage, or $1 million, something along those lines, that it can work its way out. So that's what led to insurance, was really just that decision was that, it was tough to, there was a client that I had that they paid pretty much sticker price for, they paid about $3,000 under sticker price for a car. And then another client came in shortly after that wanting to pay basically sticker price. And I just couldn't really stomach even though I would have got a bigger bonus out of it. I'm just like, that just doesn't feel right to do to these people, basically. So I was like, after that, I'm like, I put my 2 weeks in. I worked off of Craigslist for a little bit, and then I found a job in insurance.
Right. Oh, right. Very interesting thing, Dennis, is that we've had, a couple of the other people, a couple of other guests on the podcast, and they've all mentioned, some of them mentioned that they came from a sporting background as well. Some in track, some football. And it's a very interesting thing that I'm hearing, is that quite often the individuals who've gone and done a sporting background, the lessons and teachings from that sport have helped them. It's almost transferable skills into the real world of work, whether it's the whole thing of teamwork, discipline, and especially track. You're on your own, so you're competing against other individuals. So you set yourself goals and you go out to strive. And then the added emphasis of psychology and about the mindset and understanding people. Do you think that going through those periods of sport and then doing a degree in psychology have helped you in your career today?
Absolutely. I would say the biggest, to your point, running track really helped me understand the point of being not only a team member, but also being responsible for yourself, right? Like, there's, no matter how good your team is in track, no one else is going to run for you, no one's going to throw for you, no one's going to jump for you. You have to go out there and do your reps. And frankly, again, pretty candidly speaking here, working in the corporate America, I work with a lot of people that both were in sports and were not in sports. And there are people that did not do sports that work incredibly well, don't be wrong. But the people that I definitely work best with were previous sports minded, whether it's from racing, volleyball, etc., because they understand, hey, look, there is my job, but there's also these things around my job, right? Like, I picture basketball, you play a zone, right? Like, you can't just say, well, I was standing over here, so they're over there, that's not my fault. That doesn't exist. Someone dropped the ball, the other team scored. The whole team lost that point, so let's get back on and do that thing. So that's the thing that I think drove me crazy about working kind of as a non-entrepreneur, so to speak, was having to constantly revalidate the fact that, like, I care more than they care. And that's just the truth, right? Like, I didn't, when 5 o'clock hit, I'm still working, whether I'm in the office or not. I'm still thinking about the product. I'm still thinking about what I'm doing. That's just how I function, versus other people, 5 o'clock hits, it's over. They're not thinking about working until 9 o'clock the next day. So realizing that about myself was what really drove me to be an entrepreneur, because I'm like, listen, I'm already working 24/7. Everyone says, oh, you go from working 40 hours to working 24 hours a day. And you're like, well, I'm already doing that. I'm already up at 5. I'm already, working till 2. Like, let's, we can keep this going.
I mean, Dennis, there's many different transitions within your career. So you mentioned there was many different diverse roles, such as internships, and then there's insurance before you ended up being the founder of Endelea Studio. So what inspired these different transitions?
As I was going through those moments, it was kind of feeling like I hit a ceiling. Really feeling like no matter, again, we'll take it back to sports analogies, right? Like, no matter whether I ran 100 miles a week or whether I ran 10 miles a week, I was still getting the exact same time out. And that just that will drive anyone crazy, right? Like no matter if you want to at least see like up or down, figure out which way is the right direction at least.
Yeah.
And I just really felt like I was just, no matter kind of what I did, I was still kind of getting that same kind of secondary spot as far as, getting opportunities to go out and market to clients and therefore, build my own brand, build my own name, those kind of things. And then in hindsight, every company that I worked for actually went through some kind of acquisition. And so there's a matter of, and I'll say, especially pre-pandemic, no one really cared about technology. Everyone cared about kind of the basis of the business, how much revenue do you bring in, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So most people would not invest in technology at all. So us, the underwriters, would have to spend 2 to 3 hours on a quote that should only take 10 minutes if you had the proper technology, but then still also getting, barked at because we're not writing enough business quickly enough because it's taking us 2 to 3 hours per quote, right? So those are the kind of things that you see. Okay, again, I look at the small signs. Maybe it comes from my psychology background. Whenever a company starts giving away a lot of gifts, there's usually kind of a reason for that. And so a lot of the companies started giving away a lot of swag and a lot of like, kind of closet cleaning kind of things. And it's just like, oh, all right, there's three check boxes of like, hey, you're about to sell. It's like, okay, one box is checked. Okay, second box is checked. Okay, start aligning your own affairs because no one else is going to do it for you. So that's really in hindsight, like I said, the every company I worked for either went through an acquisition or merger within the first 6 months, or went through one, within about 6 months after I left. And I've seen firsthand on both sides of that where, again, not to say people lie, but people are often misinformed, and especially middle management, in my opinion, are kind of kept in the shadows to say what's supposedly true to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been conversations on a Monday that says, hey, look, your job's safe. You're going to have a job for the next month, even with your kids and your wife and, blah, 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 blah. And then next week they're gone, right? Like they just cut the whole division gone. And that's not to say that, like I said, the person lied to them or whatever, what have you, but that's the conversations that do happen. And for me, I'm like the old route of, okay, well, where's the most stable income? And, to the point of, like I said, my dad worked for the city for 40 years. Where's that stability? It's like, okay, well, that just doesn't, to me, it doesn't exist right now. Like, unless I build my own, that doesn't exist to me, because at least I can control something. You can't control the market, you can't control everything, but at least you can control. I can control my hustle, right? Like I can at least continuously put out my hustle, and something will come back at least, right? So, sorry, I forget the original question there, but I hope that answered.
Yeah, it's just regarding like what essentially inspired your different like transitions in your career, just like with internships and insurance, really. But that's it's really interesting. Thanks for that, Dennis.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So going on to about hustle, and you've now ventured into your own. You set your own destiny for your own company. So speaking about Endelea Studios, you said you're committed to empowering students and entrepreneurs. Can you tell us a bit about some of the infrastructure and services you've developed to support those students and entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So Endelea Studio is a full house for kind of idea development and exit planning. So everyone, like I said, from, hey, I have an idea that might work, to I have a side hustle that's already working, to I have a full grown business that has 100 employees, and now I'm trying to figure out how to manage these expenses between, the market crashing, what have you, or also figuring out, like I said, what we're dealing with is business continuity planning. So looking at the wars going on, right? Like, so if you have outsourced operations in those countries, figuring out what the next steps look like for that. So again, really looking at the entire process of entire lifetime, of a business. And so that's what the studio is for. Endelea Digital is the second step that's most common, right? So website design development. So everything from SEO management to basic website design for just a profile for your resume, to just provide a different context to yourself, to, like I said, the networking organizations we work with well over 5,000 members, that, are trying to rebrand themselves and provide that better value. So we're, like I said, we're an answer for website design. We're not the only answer. So like I said, the studio portion is designed to be a help through that. So if you're already using Wix and you already have a great program running, we can still help you through that process, or transition it over to our platform, which is absolutely cheaper. But we can talk about that once we get there. And then from there we have Endelea Tech, which is excuse me. Endelea Tech is our operational consulting side. And so again, looking at that entire life cycle, looking at where you are now. Do you have 10 employees and you want to go to 100 employees? Do you want to do future funding? So do you want to have things set up so that way you get the best out of your funding, or do you want to have it set up to be best for setting off your legacy to your family, right? There's different questions and different options to go with those routes. And so that's really what that looks at. Our team on that side came from some of the similar private equity consulting firms I worked with. And so they've seen, particularly Ed Piccolo, one of our strategic leaders, he's probably seen, at least 500 deals a year for the last probably 4 or 5 years. And we've also had like a huge influx because of the pandemic, kind of squished things and then spread them out a bit. And so he's seen firsthand not only, what venture and private equity firms are looking for, but also the levers they use to build leverage, right? So, for instance, let's say companies built on Android versus Apple iOS system, right? A VC firm may say, well, it's going to cost us 50 million to cross over from one to another, but in reality, it only costs 5. So if you're the founder and you're walking in there without knowing that knowledge, you can only argue but so much, because, right, it's for those who don't know, investing in your business is kind of like selling a house, right? Like there's things that people are going to say, oh, well, it should be worth this. It should be worth 5 times your revenue. It should be blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of mystery math that can be played in there. But until you get to that point, until you have what they call a capital event, which usually means you're running out of cash flow, essentially. Until you have that event, you don't have a check to be able to argue with, right? Like if there's only one person in the market saying it's worth $1 million, you can't really say it's worth 10 until you get someone else saying it's worth 10. So it just becomes this big question that happens a lot of times at the worst time for founders, that we want to help them through, to say, hey, look, this VC firm might be a good option for you, right? Like they might take care of you, versus, hey, look, we work with this other firm, and honestly, they've for instance, I'm sure you guys know Nike and Adidas. It'd be like Nike and Adidas combining together, right? There's times firms they don't care about the morals of the two companies. They just care about the fact that, okay, well, now we are the biggest shoe distributor versus, right, like the people at Nike and Adidas will both say, like, this sucks. there's going to be an issue, right? It's not going to be a very just streamlined merger of the minds whenever they've been, rivals for the last 40 plus years, right? So that's again what we kind of try to help founders know, at least going into the room, to say, hey, look, this could happen, right? This with this investment, they have the right to do this. Are you sure you want to do this, right? Like explaining those basic things, and not using, like, so we still recommend lawyers and we recommend other vendors, etc. Like, so we're just supposed to be there to be that agnostic advisor to say, hey, look, this is our experience. This is what we've seen. We work with this guy for the last 20 years. Those kind of things that are hard to pick up at the time.
Now, Dennis, so I just wanted to touch on, you're going through, providing the best service possible for clients and whatnot. So could you describe the role of creativity and passion in business success, and how yourselves at Endelea Studio encourages these qualities in your clients?
Absolutely. So I have the, I guess, call it radical belief that if you're really passionate about something, you'll really enjoy it. And for including the MBA, shout out to Tori Orr at Versa Equities, Tori Orr, TORR. So she recently got her MBA, and she was kind of mentioning on her podcast how through Wharton, it's like you can't really, what she said, chasing your dreams won't make you enough money, basically. Yeah. And I try to argue that. I truly believe that if you have that dream, if you're willing to go through that call it gutter, the rut, the dirt for a second to get to that dream, I think that you can get there. So that's what this is really trying to prove. And so with that, like I said, the website design is a key product that we promote. But within that, we're trying to say, hey, look, you know, young Blair, hey, do you want to race cars, right?
Yeah.
You don't understand all that goes into motorsport yet, but you know you want to race cars. Okay, well, how about a quick internship or you know, essentially a side contract, a subcontractor role, basically within Blair Foundation, right? That way, they're able to say, I've actually seen the financials, I've seen the work that they do, I know exactly what I want to do here. I got this experience, and the biggest thing we say is, you know, paying attention is free. It's always free. You can always pay attention. You can always raise your hand, say, hey, is there some grunt work for me to do? There's always a list that needs re-alphabeticalized. Like, like there's always something you can always raise your hand to do. And so that's our goal is to try to pick up some of that lower leg work for the founders, so that way they can actually focus on what they need to do, and then also kind of ignite that fire in the younger person to say, hey, this is truly what I want to do, right? Versus the person that's like me that was like, okay, I'm gonna go to med school, and then gets to freshman year of college and takes that bio class and goes, yeah, this isn't for me.
And Dennis, just again, going to you as an entrepreneur, what would you say are 3 skills that you picked up on your journey that's helped to make you as successful as you are today? If you have to name 3.
So, yeah. So on the journey, including like from birth or like from the last 10 years.
Oh well, let's say, yeah, last 10 years. So we say,
Last
yeah,
10 years. All right. Cause I was saying, so always been detail oriented. My dad was a homicide detective, so he's honed that into me. So I think that's always been just a natural gift of mine to be, you know, the whole picture has to make sense. And as soon as there's like that one thing off, I have to hone in. I have to dig out. I have to, you know, figure out what that is. In the last 10 years, self organization is not taught, nor does anyone really, in my experience, really help you to do that. So figuring out how to really organize yourself in my experience, like I said, going from a sports mentality to, I ran track and did every sport under the sun from 5 years old until in college, even a couple years after college. And so going from that structure where, you know, you have to be up at 5 in the morning to do your runs, you have to be at the 4 p.m. lift, you have to get all your schoolwork in between those 2 times. So there's not really time to what they call self-organize or what have you. Versus post grad, all of a sudden you're technically done at 5. What else do you do at that time, and how do you start to build? And so, especially going into an entrepreneur role, you have 24 hours a day, right? Like me personally, I work sometimes from 2 in the morning till about 10 in the morning, and that's just because I like the quiet at that time, so to speak. So self-organization, I say, is one of the biggest things. Being bold enough to, yeah, really being vulnerable enough to put yourself out there, because it's a lot different than selling someone else's product. That's one of the things that I think is overwhelming to a lot of entrepreneurs when they first start out. Is they see the market, they see the niche, they see the fit for something, and then they go, okay, well, it's time to put it out there. Oh, I don't know if this person might not like that. This person is going to say this and that, and it's like you've got to figure out how to either continue to work on your product to the point that you feel comfortable with it, or be bold enough to fail and say, okay, this is where we are. This is version 1. This is going out. Let's see what happens. And it's a question you have to ask yourself. Third thing is really, I would say, patience as an entrepreneur. It's a different skill than any other role that I've ever had. Like I said, in track, you can go out and run a little bit more. You can go do some more push-ups. You can kind of do things to move the needle in a way that you know the needle has to move. Versus sometimes, I'm not sure if you guys are religious, but it's like waiting for the Red Sea. If you go into the Red Sea too early, God didn't part it yet. If you go in too late, it's already closed. So sometimes entrepreneurs just like waiting for it to split for a second, just because that's the right time for you. And so, as I progressed this, so I actually started an insurance agency, like I said, about 3 years ago, and that's coming to more additional flourishing at the same time, where the relationships that I, built, and make sure that I didn't burn by, being that kind of greedy salesman saying, yeah, I need your business. I need to fear monger you to get this business. Now to come back saying hey, I just want you to take a look. It's the last time you pointed me in the right direction. I appreciate that, those kind of things. So building that kind of patience to see those businesses come back at 10 times the revenue they were at before. So now it's a bigger, insurance commission check, those kind of things. So being patient is it's hard, but it definitely pays off.
I can echo that. Being patient. It's all about being patient, waiting for the right opportunity, and not jumping to the gun or not waiting too late. Sometimes you just have to take a risk and go for it. And what I want to, which follows up quite nicely, Dennis, is in terms of, closing a deal and doing the art of negotiation. So for anybody listening to this podcast, any young person or adult who's thinking, oh, I'd love to go into a job in sales or eventually run my own business, what tips would you give for effective negotiation and closing a deal?
So I'll admit my weakest point is probably closing. I'm naturally an educator. So my thing is I want to give you the information, you make the decision. And I've realized, and shout out to Noah Fox, he's currently at ACA, a private equity consulting firm. He's him and my dad are the only two people I've seen truly know how to close people with a fierceness that I've just never seen, but it's a kind fierceness, right? Like it's ability to know exactly what they want out of the conversation, not being scared to push towards that goal. And I would say there's a balance to it, right? I'll admit that, right, my lack of ability to close is part of my lack of wanting to be vulnerable, because I never really want to put that final nail in the coffin. I wanted to keep on stretching out kind of in a way, versus some people are willing to just say, hey, look, it's time to make a decision. And I'll say, no, I would suggest you guys have Noah on here. Like I said, he's a great guy to talk to, great friend. But yeah, he's absolutely a closer in that sense that what they say is get the job done. And he truly does get the job done, right? Like he doesn't have to scare someone into it. Doesn't have to like fear monger or go around the boat, but it's just a matter of he's going to go get the job done.
And then Dennis, how do you find, let's say, the balance of, let's say, your mission, obviously, to empower and support diverse voices in the business world? How do you balance that with, let's say, profitability?
Because we live in America, we have to charge, in my opinion. Yeah. I'm the kind of person, like, my genuine goal is to make my friends rich so I can live for free. Like, I don't have that drive for saying it's in my bank account, saying that we charge X amount of dollars, etc. Like, I would rather set up my best friend Jeep to be a billionaire. I'll tell you, I'll share Jeep's story later on, but yeah, set up Jeep to be a billionaire, and then that way I can crash on his couch whenever I feel like it, traveling to California, so to speak. So that's really my personal focus. With that said, like I said, and having consulted with the private equity firms and VCs, there's so much money on the table that I'd almost feel lazy to not figure out how to get it, if that makes sense. And so with that regard, I don't really have to. I purposely made Endelea so I didn't have to have that moral decision between should we charge or should we do X, Y, Z. So like I said, we're coming in lowest in the market by far. Like I said, we do $500 for a basic website design, and that includes hosting for the year. That's, like I said, most people are doing I've heard between 2,000 at the very low end to more like 4,000 to 5,000 as kind of like the common end. Like I said, as a insurance agency founder as well, like I said, that's my savings, right? Like that's a whole lead list. There's a lot of different things you can do with that amount of money before telling someone how to design a website that you have to still tell them every single step. So that's what we're trying to target towards. So with that regard, like I said, our prices are made to be just market low because that's our goal. Like I said, our goal is to really help, like I said, the person that has an idea, that has, a side hustle that says, okay, I just want to test out, what this next step is. and not have to sit here and wonder whether I set up my website correctly. It's set up correctly. All right, now what is the next step for your business versus like I said, paying a lot of money, still telling them how to set it up, and then still not feeling confident about what's kind of there. So
yeah.
So Dennis, in terms of diversity, inclusion, and equity, what does that mean to you?
And it's a way of life to me. Yeah, I mean, without diversity, you're missing part of the puzzle. You're missing major pieces of the puzzle. For me, it's also like I said, on a deeper level. I'm not sure if you guys have Cutco and Avon products, Cutco knives, Avon pharmaceuticals. I'm not sure if it's the same over there, but everyone of African American descent over here has an aunt, a cousin, someone that sold one of those products, or if not both. So for me, it was my sister. I have cousins that sold them, and to the point of DEI. If you even look at Avon's biography book, a great read for founders, like I said, looking at a company that started back in the 1800s, but basically they never marketed the sales reps roles to Black women, even to 2010, 2015, right? Like even to that day, they still were not truly targeting that market. They were like, okay, well, there's this neighborhood next to this white neighborhood, so I guess we'll go ahead and let them sell as well, what have you. And so you just see this continuous cycle of kind of waiting for Black women to be last pick. And so that's where this idea really came from, was that I have a 17-year-old niece who's my best friend, honestly, but also just a very bright young girl who's obviously going to college. But as I sit here and tell her about, roles that she should look at, or, as I think through what she should learn through an internship, what she should learn through her first kind of for a few years out of college, I didn't really have a good place for her to pick. Right. Like I knew some areas, and a few of my friends are now managers, and so they could potentially, show her the ropes or what have you. But I didn't see a route that was very clear of saying, hey, look, no matter if you come and work for us in 2 years, you're going to have at least enough basis to go work somewhere else. That's the bottom line. Right. Yeah. On top of that, we're going to make you some money because website design is a ripe market right now. So those are our two things that, like I said, where that's my focus is Black women, but I also want to bring on a team that's, like I said, we are diversity inclusive. Like I said, I have best friends and family members that are white, et cetera, et cetera. So we're never to be exclusive, but really just to say, hey, look, for the last at least 50, 60 years, Black women have been getting less than the backseat. They're being told to essentially walk behind the car. And to me, that's just not fair, not right, et cetera. And so once I see something, I got to do something about it. And so Endelea is really a response to that, and in response to the DEI world of seeing, again, to the last point here is that when you had 2016, 2017, in the huge rush, right, everyone suddenly found the Black female CEO, CFO, et cetera. And it's like, well, they've been here. They've had those same the resume has been the same pretty much. And you said no 5 times already. But now suddenly, because your investors are, and that's where I started seeing the PE VCs mark, where that became, again, a group think tactic of, okay, let's just not get sued. It's not, it's not, and I'm not trying to discredit VC and PE firms, right? But not a lot of them were saying, okay, DEI is our top priority. It was DEI is our top threat. We might get sued because our entire board and all of our employees are white males. And it's like, well, we could have told you that like 5 years ago, but all right, like, yes, you should probably get some diversity. And so I think there's, to your point, or original question earlier in the podcast, there's an awakeness to the positivities of DEI, and they're finally seeing the creativity that we bring to the table. And it's hard to deny that once you see, 5x revenue over year, what have you. But like I said, it's still, we're still in the system. Systems take time to change, right? So
no, absolutely. I echo everything that you just said, and it was in a McKinsey report a couple of years ago, like but the benefits of having a more diverse workforce, or even diversity at a board level, because people bring ideas or things from different backgrounds, whether it's ideas, creativity, productivity, different ways of problem solving, which the more the merrier. It boosts productivity, boosts revenues, and can even take a small business, small medium business international. So yeah, there's many perks of it. So it seems crazy not to do it, but I suppose it's if you've been doing something for so long, it's the fear and resistance to change. And sometimes it's like, well, if it's working well, why do I need to change? But sometimes change is for the best. And speaking of that, you've changed and developed over the years in terms of your career paths and your learning. But if you had to speak, let's say 15 years ago, let's say speak to your high school self. If you could give your high school self any advice, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Focus on your path. And once you see your path, focus on it.
Yeah.
I would say one of the books I recommend to pretty much everyone is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It really talks about a founder's journey through, starting as a side hustle, starting with some loans, starting out just kind of not knowing obviously how big Nike could be. Really, and he just talks about how his route is singularly focused and how no matter where he kind of went, he sees shoes and feet, and that's just kind of the thing he sees. And so for me, I personally I see the world through shoes. And so my high school self was working at the Whitaker Group, actually. So social status clothing retailer out of Pittsburgh. And so that's what frankly taught me my basis of sales, business, etc. was frankly, there's a million shoes, right? How do you sell shoes? You have to make someone want what is about that shoe differently than anything else. And so even though it's still rubber, nylon, shoelace, there's still same three elements, but they're done differently. There's a reason, whether it's a story behind it, whether it's the extra cushioning, there's an extra detail that goes into that. And so for me, I always looked at everything as like, okay, well, what do you boil it down to? What are the key things? And so that comparative has always helped me with navigating a lot of life's obstacles, especially in corporate world. So I would say, to the person that sees life through shoes or sees life through rubber bands or engines or whatever else, like continue to hone in on that, because whatever you learn probably will transfer over to other things that you will learn. Like I said, it's not going to make a lot of sense at first sometimes, but sometimes you just gotta go, all right, this, for me, like I said, insurance policies are 100 pages long easily, and sitting there trying to actually dissect each one to figure out what is which would have just drove me crazy. But I broke it down to, all right, this is a shoe. This one's a basketball shoe. This one's a track shoe. This one's a tennis shoe. And this is the person that's going to probably want this. And so that for me, again, just really broke it down. And so I would say, again, focus on that path.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask Dennis one more question before we go into our free bonus questions.
Okay.
Could you share with us your vision for the future of Endelea Studio?
Sure. So I would say our internal revenue goal is to hit $1 billion within 7 years. So that's first and foremost. Like I said, we want to be frankly a 10 times unicorn, as they say in the VC space. But I believe we can absolutely hit $1 billion in revenue by year 7, if not sooner. As far as our passion and goal, I really just want to see a world where my nieces and nephews can go in, do work for a good business, and then come out with a education to be able to build their own business. To me, the narrative of, having to work for a business for 15, 20 years, etc. I mean, that's a great idea, but I think that in my experience, there's a much better return on revenue when you're the owner, right? Like if you're the number 2, number 3, whatever, you're still probably putting in 100 hours a week. You're still probably you're still giving up those times with your kids, etc. So why not call the shots, in my opinion, right? So I would say that's probably our biggest goal right there. It really is, right there. It's to make sure that people don't have to compromise their morals to become financially free, in my opinion. So like I said, not having to overprice a car, not having to, go through those moral questions as you're being looked at for M&A decisions. I want you to be able to say, my niece and nephews and everyone else like them, to be able to say, hey, look, I want to take a, like what I did with my company, right? Like, so technically they had layoffs in July, but in May I kind of saw it coming, and I started building towards my exit plan. So I had my own exit plan ready before they gave me an exit plan. So that's what I want people to be able to see, is that, hey, look, I can control my future. I'm not just stuck in this wave. I'm building my own waves.
Excellent. I love that. What we're going to do now, Dennis, is we're going to go on to the bonus section of the podcast, where we're going to ask you 3 questions. And the first question, as mentioned before the podcast, I will judge you on. So please do give me the right answer.
I gotta look out for the floor. There's a floor going to drop out from below me. Yes.
So if we see Dennis's head just drop from the camera, it means I've pressed the button, and he's the trapdoor has been activated. So here we go. Drum roll, Blair.
Nice.
Right. Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
Definitely.
Right, trapdoor activated.
No, it's gotta be the right mix. It can't just be pineapple and cheese. No, that's just weird. It's gotta be like the Hawaiian, like with the ham, bacon, the whole nine. Like you gotta do it right. It's not a single. You can't just have cheese, or even just cheese and pepperoni and pineapple. That's. I mean, hey, look. Don't you guys? What do you guys? You guys drink your beer like medium warm. So I mean, how can you really judge us?
We drink our beer cold. I mean,
don't you guys have like that cellar temperature or something like that? I don't know. I watch Top Gear. That's all my references are.
To be fair, I don't really drink beer unless it's like a Corona or a Desperado.
Okay.
A Desperado's got a bit of tequila in the beer. That tastes really nice. But normal standard beer.
I hear that.
I'm stick to my rum. Thank you very much.
You can put the fifth, Blair. We know.
Blair can have the beer if he wants.
No, I'm not really much of a beer drinker myself. I'm more either cider or spirits myself. Okay. Or vodka rum mixed with a bit of pineapple or orange.
Okay. Not bad.
Eccentric mix there, Blair. Second question, Dennis. If you could have any superpower, what superpower would you have?
Yeah, I gotta say speed. That's either the Flash, basically, like speed of light. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I'm all about efficiency. So if I could, skip having to drive from place to place, I can just run to the UK across the water real quick. That'd be much better. So yeah,
I had a feeling you were gonna say speed from your track background.
I'm a very happily retired runner now, but trying to stay in shape.
And then the final question is, if you could go when you go home this evening, if you could throw a dinner party, I said it's an imaginary dinner party, and you could invite 4 guests, who are dead or alive, which 4 guests would you invite?
Okay, I put MJ on the list. Michael Jordan.
Could have been Michael Jackson, just had to clarify.
Yeah, I had to clarify. I mean, Michael Jackson's cool and all, but no, we're doing 4. Definitely MJ, Malcolm X.
That's my idol.
That's my guy. Obama. This is a closed dinner, right? I want to see the true Obama come out. Like I want drinks passed around, all that kind of stuff. Let's see who else. Maya Angelou, because her quotes have always kept me grounded. One of my favorite ones of hers is when someone shows you who they are, trust them. Right? Like that has helped me not overanalyze things and just trust someone to be who they are and who they show you to be. And that allows you to like move accordingly rather than, as I used to do in the past, you kind of hope that someone's going to be something, going to hope that they're going to do the right thing. They're going to, all those hopes that lead to nothing. I say to the founders, if you're going through a stressful day, find a Maya Angelou quote and print it out, post it write it on a post-it note, something like that. It'll definitely kind of keep you it'll keep you remembering why you're going through that headache, because there's a bigger purpose to it.
That is one of the best quotes, and is definitely something I've learned over the last few years. Is when somebody does show you who you are, believe them, trust them.
Absolutely.
And sometimes as an entrepreneur, you think, oh, this person, isn't as bad as what you think, or they can change. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes people just don't want to change, and how they are is what they're going to be for the rest, unless they want to. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And to that point, as far as other entrepreneurs, I've had, and again, I'm a spiritual being. I believe in God and was raised Christian, but I'm, to each their own religion, what have you. But I definitely feel like the universe, or whatever you want to call it, moves people around for that reason, right? Like I've tried to force things with people that I question their, call it, moral character, what have you, and it just didn't work. Just constantly didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, finally, I'm like, okay, I give up on this one. And all of a sudden, a person that's exactly the same, that's a duplicate in the sense of the business relationship, right? But actually a good person, actually everything else, right? Like that exact fit suddenly pops up. So sometimes you're almost blocking your own blessings by sitting there pursuing this thing that the person showed you who they were. So just be aware of that, basically. That's probably the biggest advice I would give to people, because especially as an entrepreneur, as you guys know, as soon as you open your LLC, you get 150 emails saying, hey, you opened your LLC, you want to buy this service, you want to buy that service, you want to buy this service. And end of the day, you don't, again, that's why Endelea is here, right? To say, this is a good step, this is a bad step. We've, as a founder, don't be wrong, I've definitely wasted money, right? Like we've definitely all paid for those trials that we're like, hey, this seems like a great idea. And then 2 weeks later, we're like, hey, look, this just isn't going to work. Like that is a part of the process and the path, right? But like, people have someone next to you saying, hey, yeah, no, you just do a little bit more work, or actually, just start another foot next time, and you'll be fine, those kind of things. So like I said, really appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, huge fan of what you guys are doing. Like I said, shout out to Get Me Motoring. Like I said, been following you guys for over 4 years now. Like I said, just absolutely love what you're doing. Like I said, to build a path, in my opinion, for my niece and nephews that I see. That's why I want to be a part of this. Like I said, you guys literally said, hey, there's a problem. I got an idea to fix it. Let's go fix it. And then you said, continue to fix it, continue to fix it, continue to fix it. And that's those are all three of those parts are extremely hard and extremely rare. So I want you guys to acknowledge that, like, that is, so many people I talk to have ideas that they've never done anything on, right? Like they sit there and talk about it at the bar, and I had an idea 5 years ago. I thought of Facebook before Facebook. And you're like, okay, like, cool. What do you like? Congratulations. What do you want from me? So I just kudos to you guys. Keep going. Like I said, I know it's definitely not easy, and definitely here to support.
Well, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Dennis. Appreciate that. And you know what? Thank you for bigging us up, but it's, thank you for being a guest on 5 and 5, explaining your journey. And for the audience listening, because this has been a great episode, where can people go out to find more about you, Dennis, and Endelea Studios? Any social plugs? The floor is yours.
Sounds good. Yeah, pretty simple. All Endelea Studio, ENDELEA.studio, STUDIO. My email is d@endelea.studio. Just again, keep it simple. And then, like I said, on our webpage, you'll see whether website consultations, business continuity planning, cybersecurity assessments, due diligence readiness. Literally, like I said, every step of the process, we've been basically on the other side of the table with a VC firm saying, hey, this is what you should do, XYZ. So we're bringing that information to the founders. We have an Instagram. It's, we're aggressively hiring for a social media manager, as well as a few other sales reps. So if you guys are looking, like I said, please let me know. We give a very aggressive compensation program. Like I said, our focus, again, if you've done high school sports at a high level, you're automatically qualified. If you've done college sports or beyond, you're absolutely qualified. Like I said, we are here to put out 100%. So that's, if you're willing to clock in, whether it's for an hour a week or 40 hours a week, if you put in 100% for that hour, we'll figure out a way to make that work and make it a compensation for you. So that's how we're working.
Excellent. Well, Dennis, Thank you so much for being a guest on CBBB podcast. I thought about the old podcast then. And yet, definitely we'll have to get you back on the podcast and do an update journey of where things are with Endelea.
Yeah, please. Awesome, guys. Like I said, thank you for your time. Thank you for the platform here. Like I said, I'll definitely have a lot of referrals for you. So keep a lookout for my email.
Thank you.
Definitely. All right.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Right, take care, Dennis.
Thanks so much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye now.
Wow. What a great and exciting episode of the See Me, Be Me podcast with Dennis Logan, founder and CEO of Endelea Studios. On this podcast, Dennis spoke about his journey, being an entrepreneur, and, working his work he does with diverse businesses, helping him to grow and scale. There was 3 different sections of his business. There was the digital side, helping out with website design, SEO. There was the tech side, and then there was also the continuity, business planning and continuity side, which is all great, and helping founders get funding. A lot of the skills that Dennis has learned has come through his corporate background. He was working in VCs, helping businesses get funding. He had his own insurance business before this as well, helping selling insurance, and then doing stuff around governance and risk and consulting. But what I found with Dennis is that, and what I got is that he's never stopped learning. There's always continuous learning. He's always looking to develop himself and get better and better, which is seen from where he started. Wanting to be a 400-meter runner, the psychology, to wanting to know a little bit about law. He did obviously psychology at university, and wanted to go into knowing about law, and how sort of those skills that he's learned have led him to go into working in the jobs afterwards, and even working at Lexus and doing sales has helped him in his job. We talk about negotiation and speaking with other companies. But from what I got from Dennis is that, it's not all about, making as much money as possible. It's about legacy, and it's about leaving a lasting impression in this world. And, I love what he said about, he was working with his friend, and he wants to make his friend become a billionaire, so that when his friend is successful and has a great house, he's always got somewhere to stay. Like, oh, I'm going to go and stay on your couch. And, it's that pride and that sense of knowing that you've helped transform someone's life, and you've helped them grow and be better than what they once before. And that's what I got from Dennis on this call. It's about giving back, and helping people to become better and grow their business. But it comes at a cost. You can't. The saying that we say in the Blair Project is that you can't just live off fresh air. Everything has a price, everything has a service, and that's what he's doing with these companies, is that he's providing a great service, but he's charging for that great service. One of the things we spoke about in the podcast was like how sport and psychology played a part in him becoming the person that he is today, whether it's the teamwork in that aspect, it's the being driven, being passionate and determined to achieve your goals. Those have all helped shape him into the person he is today. We also talked about how VCs and investors need to do more to promote diversity and inclusion and equity by investing in diverse businesses. There was quite a resistance at first to focusing on diversity and inclusion, but now we've seen lots of like hedge funds and VCs saying that basically if you want more money, you're going to have to invest in diverse businesses. That we're now starting to see a change, which is positive, because the amounts of creativity and productivity and that we're missing out on because we're not hearing diverse voices is sad that we're not expecting. We're not what's the word? We're not focusing too much on that, but we're now starting to see a real change, and it's great because there's so many more ambitious Black Black founders, people with great ideas that just haven't had the same level of opportunity. So it's nice to see things have started to change. And yeah, it's great to see some of the stuff that he's involved with at the moment in terms of helping these entrepreneurs, you know, either through support systems and infrastructure projects. Yeah, helping to grow some ambitious startups. So I can't wait to see the future of Endelea Studios. And we've already said we're going to invite Dennis back onto the podcast to hear an update on the journey of working with these small companies. But yeah, that's all we've got time for today. We very much hope that you've enjoyed this episode. So make sure to go and like, comment, and subscribe on this video or podcast. The Blair Project is on the following socials: Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn at the Blair Project. And we're on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Get Me Motoring. That's all we've got time for. Take care, everybody. Peace out. If you've liked today's episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The Blair Project is on all major social media platforms, including Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube at The Blair Project. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, we are on TikTok at Get Me Motoring. If you'd like to follow myself individually, I am on Instagram at Nile Henry and also LinkedIn at Nile Henry as well.
And if you want to follow myself, I'm on Instagram as BlairHenry_97 and also on LinkedIn as just Blair Henry.
So we look forward to having you on the next episode. So stay tuned. Take care.
Until next time.